Wherefore, Series 2, Episode 24. The water tastes silty and heavy with uncanniness. It takes Nerys several nights to get to grips with this. Her beaver self knows this matters. After a few nights haunted by the muddy taste in the water and a few days of uneasy thinking, she decides to act. When the silty water shows up again, she follows its trail, swimming against the flow to find the place it came from. She has no rational reason for doing this, she just feels keenly that she should. Of course, if Nerys had studied the more obscure folklore relating to Ditchley Yat, she would know the implications. Strange, silty water entering the brooks around Stroud has long been taken as a sign that the valley is present and nearby. No one has ever seriously tried to follow a supposed Ditchley Yat flow for some time. Not since the famous Edwardian bog swimmer, Simon Patterson, attempted it slightly before the outbreak of the First World War. He disappeared for some months, during which time he was largely forgotten, on account of war having broken out. When he eventually returned, raving mad and obsessed with keeping his socks dry, no one thought much of it because there was a lot of that sort of thing about at that time. It was only after his death in 1957 that a nephew discovered his hitherto unknown memoirs. A heavily edited version was published under the title Bogs I Have Known Intimately. The book was modestly successful due to some misconceptions caused by the title. The full-typed manuscript is in the Stroud Library archive and has only ever been read by 7 people. Myself and Professor Bob Fry are of that number. Simon Patterson's memoirs largely made sense in a weirdly bog-obsessed sort of way. That is until we get to the section of swimming upstream in the flow of silty Ditchley water. He describes his certainty that he was really swimming backwards through time towards an ancient past. For days on end he crawled through the Ditchley ditches, filthy and soaked, but somehow feeling unable to stand up. Why he absolutely could not stand up well in Ditchley he does not say. However, Simon Patterson was of no doubt that he had entered Ditchley, and that verticality was not an option, so horizontal he remained, swimming back through time on his stomach, or becoming ever more detached from reality. Or both. Why this left him obsessed with keeping his socks dry, but apparently less troubled by dampness in other areas of his personage, we will never know. He really deserves a decent story and a better place in local folklore than he has thus far been afforded, but so far he languishes uncelebrated. Nerys is not one of the 7 people to have read the full memoirs of Simon Patterson. She also hasn't read any of the Ditchley silt yarns from Reverend Carmichael Doppelganger's collection of alarming tales retold for the nursery. Most of those have long since been burned, which is probably just as well. She hasn't even heard of the channelled visionary work on Ditchhouse Parish, published online by Robin Treefellow, but that only has a small cult following. Nerys follows the silty taste of rotting leaves and turnip tops because she has to. It is a sentiment Simon Patterson certainly understood. Nerys has no idea where she's going. Her human self has an imperfect grasp of the local geography and no real idea how the watercourses work. Her beaver self feels that swimming is one of the best things ever and it is really great to be doing a lot of that. Dawn finds her still in her beaver skin and on the banks of an unfamiliar river in a landscape she does not recognise. Normally at this point in the day she would be waking up in bed as a person. Why she is still a beaver she has no idea. She is a tired beaver, however, so picks out a small island, mostly made of old tree stumps, and takes a nap there. When Nerys wakes up, she is still a beaver on an island. This is a surprising development, but she decides to just go with it. Not that she's really got much else that she could do. The water here is clear, with very little rotten turnip material in it. However, as she starts swimming again, she sees rivulets draining down into the stream. These are clearly the source of the murky water that drew her here, but She feels no compulsion to get into any of them. Here, her experience diverges wildly from that of Simon Patterson, who was entirely seduced by the local ditches and their fated contents. Nerys, as beaver, turns a bend in the river and comes upon 2 bears, fishing. She paddles in close to the bank, nervous. Ursula has been the only bear in her life. Clearly, there are other bears. One of these bears is not Ursula, maybe both. Nerys has a bit of a panic because she does not know if she can recognise Ursula as a bear. It's just never been an issue before, and she may not know what makes Ursula distinctly her bear self. Also, who is the other bear? What if Ursula has found another bear shapeshifter? Feelings of insecurity shiver through her. Nerys isn't a jealous soul, but her insufficient self-confidence makes her easy to frighten off. One of the bears looks around and fixes their gaze on her. Nerys is frozen with indecision. If these bears don't know her, they may assume she's just a regular beaver. They're in the Forest of Dean now, after all. The bear growls, which is disconcerting, but then it says, "For fuck's sake, Nerys, are you just going to stand round awkwardly in the shallows, or what?" This is her swear bear. Relief floods through her. Nerys has no idea how to get words around her massive beaver teeth, so she just paddles over to them. "This is Jo," says Ursula. "Jo, this is my girlfriend Nerys. She's not always a beaver." Ursula pauses. "Hang on. You're never a beaver in the day. What's going on?" Nerys looks around for a clear bit of mud to write in. "Don't know," she scratches. "Is your human body back home in bed?" Ursula asks. Nerys underlines her "don't know," which is already fading a bit as the mud reforms. Nerys is worried about the state of her daytime human body, but there's nothing much she can do about it. She's very glad to be able to see Ursula and to know that she is well, but being stuck in a beaver body is frustrating. It would be weird, she thinks, to try and hug a bear while being a beaver, and that is the least of what she wants to do right now. She settles for sitting next to Ursula and leaning on her a bit. Sometimes Ditchley Yat has odd effects on people. Most of the time this manifests as peculiar turnip encounters. For some it means singing shrews. For Simon Patterson it meant being unable to stand up or get out of the ditches. For Nerys it means that her secret nighttime body has taken over, and she has no idea if she even has a human body anymore, or what condition it might be in now.